Well, I hear everybody doing this church thing on there. They're all showing off their Christian skills and whatnot. Thought I'd give it a shot. A couple of things I want to notice here, and I think between 1750 and 1950, I think a whole world was like erased. Because I'm thinking that if you look it up, there's a guy named Pope Sixtus, right? And even Jesus said he's going to come back in a short time. Shows Revelations. And throughout history, it shows the spheres and all those other things, portals opening up. But the one thing was when they told the story about the giant horseman that came over and everything that in Revelation seemed to have already happened. And wouldn't that be the trick to make us think that these things haven't even happened yet? The calendar is not the calendar we know. It went from Saturday to Sunday. You go to the Catholic anything, it looks like giant serpents and they're dancing and they're okay with every other religion, but the Christianity they're supposed to promote, instead they do mother and what do you call it, mother and son worship and all that jazz. I'm just saying. If they lied about every single thing, like Area 51 when I was growing up, they want to put you on meds and shit. Like, John, it's been proven that that place is just a place in a desert. It's not really important, and I don't think that there's aliens. Jesus, freaking alien. When they just come out of thin air? And you're looking at them like, hey, maybe you're right, I'm a kid, I don't know nothing, but I do know it's out of the mouths of babes that dumbfound the fools. Something like that. I should check it out. Then if that's the case, what about, I don't know, the shape of the earth? Right? I mean, even floods that happen, I can picture it where the sunlight is on the top, but yet when you look down, you can see it go darker and darker, and then the stars, where the sky continues under the waves, And at night is like the most horrible time because you cannot differentiate the reflection from the sky, and then when you see it 4 times, okay? So picture you have a comet going to hit the water. Well, the reflection on top of the water follows it and meets it. But then it continues, and then the reflection comes back towards the arc, and the comet continues down. So you see like half the Big Dipper handle part or whatever in the sky, and then the Dipper, the bottom part underneath, right? But then you have the reflection on top of the water. I think that's good math if the world was flat. And I see it, I also see it rising up to what is called the astral plane. People, I gotta look at numbers here, people. Look at the numbers. What was it, like the third time's the charm, or 3 strikes you're out? So you had the first sun, right? That got submerged in the water. That's where you get lava, because it peeled off. That's why there was a glass coating, but since they jammed that thing in it, it cracked it, and now the rust is starting to show through. And that's the moon, which was the first sun. It's the first sun. As the flood was high, and then the moon just sat and floated in the water, everything was still. It was dark, but it was amber red, because at that time it was still hot enough. And it's the sizzling and the crackling when it happened. It's just the noise was everywhere. But yet the animals and the family slept. standing on the edge of the bow, looking at the moon, just bounce in the water. As you see ash just crumble down. And the lava is just all the way down underneath everything. Just sealed off and disconnected from it. And then when he restarted everything, called like the washing machine, the yin and the yang, the two waves, is when he put the sun in. I believe that was probably where that giant, they call it like meter or whatever, blah, blah, blah. I think that's bullshit. I think that's where God pressed the new sun down. Because the sun was lit and full of fire, full of energy. And it was different from the other one. This is the second sun. You know, you had Adam, then you had Noah. And then you had Jesus, which was a whole different story, but at the same time it was a story about a son. So the two stories of those sons led to the real story of the flesh and blood son, if that makes any sense to anybody. You know, I like calling mine a dove's feather because it just means I'm part of the story. Everybody here is a feather because we're part of that story. Every soul that exists now was ones that he saved, let alone everybody else that fell prior, I believe, right? And the ones who needed to stay, I guess they didn't come back out. Aleister Crowley is the beast. Muhammad, he made his own beast. I mean, you call it after your. If you look what I'm trying to tell you, Aleister Crowley, he came up with his book, and he got that from Lamb. Lamb and him opening portals. Imagine being able to go into a pyramid, right? With the guy, the little big head fucking guy without the lenses. He's gray without the lenses. You can tell that he has problems with it because of the way his eyes are going. Anyway, so he brings him through a portal. There's witnesses. Shows up in the living room. But anyway, wherever they are, wherever they reside, they can show up and manifest spiritually. It would be like a hologram, you know. But this is different. This is a portal opening and this thing coming in and out. This is why I think it was created by Lucifer, because it fits that narrative. You know what I mean? I think that we're missing the third. If everything is backwards, and we're looking right now for the Antichrist, why don't we go backwards? And I think we're missing the beast system, because even the CPU labels that were used from, I guess, the 70s and early 80s, right around when I was born, 1979, I think. The CPU labels and scanning devices, well, the name of that system, believe it or not, was called the Beast. So it's kind of funny when you look at the CPU labels and everything. Just check out the digits on those things and tell me what I know and what I don't know. You know, when I think of Christ, I don't think of bashing people because they're not Christian. The whole idea is saying, here's the pros and cons. You know, you're on your own, but you need a hand up. Instead, you get these vultures that want to cling to wrists and take away the person, you know. Or you get Liliths making webs everywhere. You know, call Liliths and Karens Gildebirds. Gildebird, it's a scary little day. Why you dressed like that? It's not even fucking Halloween. No, seriously, I shouldn't have cussed, but you know what I'm saying. It's like craziness. It's on purpose. Everybody's a mad hatter. You know? I think that the white dragon is on its way because the red one is infuriated. It's on its last couple poofs of fire. And let's just hope that God wants to continue the story for our sake. You know? If it's just an unveiling, then we get to continue, I hope. You know? Maybe the whole this section, why we see ghosts and everything, maybe it's because that's the Luciferian state. God's like, okay, these are all the guys that went through hell, and Jesus' 1,000-year reign, you know, darkness and Renaissance. See, nobody, I don't know how to explain it, but all of a sudden you got Cabbage Patch Kids, trains full of fucking no parents, a mud flood that happened, Aleister Crowley, and then they put Lucifer himself, basically, in the New York Harbor. And it was all Democratic. Democrats were the ones that fought to keep slavery and shit. People were like, "Oh my God, I'm Democrat, and we do not like this shit." And I'm like, "Then you're not a fucking true Democrat. At least not one from early 19th century, right? 18th, 19th, whatever. You get what I'm saying. I don't even know why they say it's the next number if it hasn't even. No, I don't know. That's like, I think nothing should start unless you have one, because it's kind of funny. When you turn around and use their 0, they take your 1 from you. You know what I mean? That stick, the number 1, goes down that hole, which is the 0. And it gets taken from it because you weren't smart enough to realize you needed to start with 1. And the only way you get to 3 is by having 2. I'm just saying. It's the most commonsensical thing. You know? Let me get back to this flat earth thing for a second here, you know? So you got it where the sun goes in there, and all of a sudden they start to react to each other. The sun is like this, from where I'm sitting, it's not like the moon, because the moon is really close and it's almost like a mountain in the water, but round. You're just far enough away to realize it's the moon, or if you were any closer, you would swear it was a mountain. But the waters are still at this point, and night has gone on now for a while, you know? And it seems like the only time family is up to witness anything is just to use the bathroom. They all go back to bed. It's the weirdest thing. But I don't know. Maybe that's just something I conjectured just to try to figure out why nobody else is shitting their pants. Can you picture trying to surf an ark? I'm just saying. You have to make sure that the all those stones that keep the pressure all right. You better hope that you double, triple on that. See, everybody thinks that the whole ride was easy, and I'm telling you, I don't think it was at all. I don't think it was at all. I'm doing math. I'm looking at it, and if I'm right, and there's a dome here, then when God said there's 4 corners, those are the 4 pillars. And people, oh, you can't have, yeah, right, you're right. But if you put pillars there, then you got gates. That would be the strongest structure while you're holding up that in order to get in and out water or whatever else. That's why it started spinning when the arc started going up, because it was coming from the 4 corners. And then where he was starting to get in the spinway. And then he got so scared he asked for him not to be forgotten. Please don't forget me, Lord. And then all of a sudden, it was calm. And you see all these thunderstorms come closer to the moon. Like they're not even anywhere else. They're just statically going to the moon. And then on the other end, you have the sun pressing down. That's like the yin and yang, the black and the white. You know, I think the black is pulling up like the moon, and the white is pushing down. And as it spins, it's pushing everything out of the 4 corners, like a washing machine would, but with four different ones, and it's spinning. That would explain why at one time there was no moon, but there was always a sun. And the story of over where, like the Incas and all that, isn't there a giant hole? Isn't there like a big crater? They say that killed off all the dinosaurs. Well, I'm pretty sure we ate a couple.
So you can be the judge, ladies and gentlemen, but this little rabbit trail here, I believe, shows us that not only has Attis, or the priest of Ishtar, and sun god worship showing up all over Egypt, all over Rome, all over Greece, and everywhere else in the Eastern Mediterranean, but is on our soils and has infiltrated America today and has literally become the epitome and the torch of freedom. It's bondage. Let's go one further. The 7 rays of the sun. Notice the nimbus, the halo of rays of the sun. This is an ancient pagan sun god. It's everywhere. This is not something they just made up. Helios, look at this.